Last week, we looked into one of the most controversial or interesting aspects of Crimson Desert, the shader trick that Pearl Abyss is using on most of its structure's surfaces. You can watch the video right here. Today, we're taking a look at the shallow water system in this game. Before we get started, I'm an environment artist working on games. I'm not a tech artist, I'm not a 3D graphics programmer, I'm just someone very interested in building environments and trying to understand everything that is involved. I'm also a gamer, and I've been playing games for almost 40 years. I enjoy open world games in particular, and I obsess with tiny technical details like a lot of other artists. So Crimson Desert is using a water simulation system, while most games are using a method called flow maps, which are basically 2D color maps feeding vector information into the engine. By showing different color blends that are the possible direction the water flows can go to. Flow maps are mostly all pre-baked, and if you see interactions like foam along the sides of the water body or ripples around the player moving, those would be done using VFX. So let's take a closer look at what we have here in Crimson Desert. So the very first thing that we notice is that the river flowing are not flat surfaces. So you can see that there are many steps and the water is flowing along those steps. So we see the water flowing very naturally. We will compare with real life rivers to see how it works. Now the water that we are looking at here is not as agitated as what we've seen in the real footage, but you'll see that all the ingredients of real life have been used by Pearl Abyss. Now by using reshade, what is very interesting is that, well, we see, the normals, and you see all those flows going in different direction, which is exactly the essence of this simulation. So we have different elements that makes up our rivers. We have the riverbed. So the riverbed is what you see below. Those tiny, smaller pebbles and small rocks. So that is one part. Then you have the river edge, which is the demarcation of the water and anything not water, basically. And you have the surface where you see those very natural flows. You have some foam, some light foam going on because it has interacted with the environment, with the rocks. And then, of course, we have our character interacting with it. There is some VFX added, right? Like some splash. Those are generated by VFX and are linked to the character's steps. Basically, you have that in dirt or sand also. That's very common in video games. So you have that to further sell the effect, right? The resolution of the normals is at a certain, well, resolution value. And when the character interacts, you see there's a big difference. You don't need it to be super detailed for it to work. And also it's an optimization technique that is meant to, well, save on cost tremendously, of course. So I'm really amazed by the steps that this effect creates. It is so natural. You see all these different steps are really selling what a river is, right? And then you see how everything flows so nicely. You see the riverbed, like everything is coming together to create what basically is the absolutely best river simulation in a video game. And on this topic, we have a developer formerly from Rockstar Games who worked on Red Dead Redemption 2, Mr. David O'Reilly, who has publicly praised Pearl Abyss water system. I'm going to quote him. So he says, "Finally, in my opinion, a game has come along that has done better rivers than Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm really pleased, and I say that as someone who helped make those rivers in Red Dead Redemption 2. We've made some progress. They really know their rivers here, and this tech is really helping them to just push these rivers. They're absolutely fantastic. The golden standard for shallow water in games has been Red Dead Redemption 2 ever since it was released. At the time, it was unreal what the good people at Rockstar came up with. Still to this day, it's considered to be one of the best looking water systems in games. So that's saying a lot coming from a dev that worked on Red Dead Redemption 2, and most specifically on its rivers. Okay, now let's see how our water will behave if I'm throwing this in the water. Oh, so not only did it affect the water, but it is
Good day and all.
also carried by the water. That's very interesting. You see the ripples, you see everything that it's doing, and you see its effect in real time on the water, on its surface, and that is just absolutely phenomenal. And you see also, just like with the players that you can see maybe at the same time, the effect is not at the same resolution as the normals on the water, but it is working so well. And let's try that again, or rather differently. Okay, now we see the water inside. That's not very realistic, but it doesn't matter. Like I want to, we have seen how it affects the water and how the water affects it. So, I mean, that is really next level simulation. And right here, that's what I wanted to see. You see, it keeps on affecting and being affected by the water. Like, I know some people are just interested in playing the game and like, come on, what are you doing with a barrel in the water, with a bucket? This is absolutely something serious, okay? In environment art, and in, I mean, game production in general, that is quite the accomplishment. Like having this in a huge open world, I don't think enough people realize what it means exactly. Like the level of, well, I would use the term immersion that this can bring, right? This is just like the best system of water, at least shallow water riverbed, right? And yeah, that's just phenomenal. I love it. And here from this angle, we can appreciate on the left part of cliff, right? If you divide the screen in two, you can see the color being affected by the sun, by the light. You can see a more greenish hue that kind of was not there before the light hit the surface. We can see the water, we can see the riverbed very well. We can see it here. Sorry, it's actually better this way, or maybe a bit closer. So you can see the waterbed very, very well. Of course, you see an effect called refraction that is part of a water. Any good water shader has to use refraction. The base principle of refraction is when you put a stick in the water, it is distorted. To the human eye, you see your stick being straight, and in the water it's bent or something like that. So there is a distortion of the image of whatever is underneath the water. And here, oh wow, we see all these effects playing at once, right? We see the foam, we see the flow. Let's go back with reshade. We see the flows being, like, it flows so naturally everywhere where it should flow. So what can we learn from this as environment artists? Well, terrain creation is much more important, as changing the river flow does affect how the rivers look with such a system. So with a standard water system based on flow maps, you would basically draw a line in the environment and that was it. This would be the river. It now involves much more work and the need to gather more references to get it right. We have to feel that it would flow this way, that it would need those rocks on the bottom, on the sides, for it to work and to sell the effect of the river flow. So, in other words, the organic part of the environment where there is water just got much more realistic, not just the body of water itself. Artists now have to consider how waterfalls work, how hydraulic erosion affects the riverbeds, and how it carves the landscape over time. So it's a much more involved job now. Now let's talk about the concept of a simulation system. We already said very few games are using simulation because it is very expensive. It is current in movies VFX as there are no interactions. Usually, it is done using Houdini, the industry standard, and it is using what is called Houdini Flip Simulation. That stands for Fluid Implicit Particles. The idea is to use millions of particles in a volume. That would be our river in this case. Give these particles the attributes of water so that it behaves like it, and then you let the software run the simulation using physics. So if the riverbed makes sense, then the water will look very realistic, going across rocks, creating foam here and there around the river edges, etc. We can also use flow maps that would be extracted from those simulations and use it in our shaders. But the issue with the Houdini Flip Sim is that it's not running in real time. It's offline. And to get the interaction with the player, it would need to rely on the physics system. So all the interactions with the players or objects would be done with VFX. Just one thing to notice right here, when you stop moving, and it's especially obvious in first person, you can see this kind of blurred effect, right? You don't see it with the foam on the right bottom part of the screen, but on the left part, if I move, if you move the camera, basically it's back to normal. But then when you stop, you have a blurry effect going on over most of the flow. And then you start moving again and it becomes sharper. But if you stop moving, it becomes blurred. That is an optimization technique that is used by the devs at Pearl Habis. And you can see it as soon as we stop moving the camera, the resolution is going down. It's kind of an LOD automatically kicking in. And once you move, it goes back. But a few seconds, I think 2 seconds, and it comes back. So I wish the transition would be a bit smoother or longer. But yeah, there's a lot going on, and it's already very, very, very detailed. So we can't complain too much. So here is what the devs at Pearl Abyss are using. It's called a shallow water equation solver. For those interested, here's the actual equation. And I'll link some documents for those who are interested. But for most of us, these things are flying way above our head. We just want to know, what does it do? The main idea is to simplify tri-dimensional flow into two-dimensional flow by making one of the dimensions very small or negligible compared to the others. So take what we just saw in Houdini, but remove the vertical dimension, which saves a lot on the performance cost. If you want to know exactly how much we're saving, we have the actual number. While simulation like the Houdini Flip Sim uses millions of particles, Pertubis has said that they are capping their particles at 250,000 near the camera, which is enough to sell the realistic effect, but much better optimized than a traditional simulation system. The particles collide with each other with the terrain height maps, any geometry like rocks, and the shoreline SDFs or sign distance fields. When they hit rocks or other obstacles, interparticle pressure spikes. Upper particles are pushed upward, gravity pulls them back down. This creates natural piling, swirling, rapids, and realistic flow around any geometry without manual artist tweaking. The particles fall back onto themselves to fill recessed areas, giving true dynamic displacement-like behavior on the water surface. So when you think about it, this is brilliant because all those details, the water being blocked by large rocks, water passing between two smaller rocks, the foam, all of this is really only seen on the water surface. So there's no need to simulate the vertical axis. The shader's color, opacity, and refraction are doing the rest of the work to make it look believable. What's interesting here is the waterfall. You can see the flow up until here, and then here you see the particles. This is VFX. That's actually the best spot I found. So you have the top part, which is simulation, which is flowing very naturally. And then this part here is only VFX. And visually, well, you can tell the speed is different, right? That's kind of the only thing I'm seeing. But here you see how different it is. So there's really no reason to simulate a waterfall. That would be way too expensive. And as you can see, it's not necessary because, I mean, it looks pretty good this way, right? And then there's the ocean shader. Oceans use separate FFT, fast Fourier transform simulation, for believable waves that interact with the shallow water river system at coastlines. Those are dynamic interactions. So you see there are more particles to deal with the foam, but the waves, so we have to be at the right spot to really appreciate the waves formation here, getting deformed, affected by the player. Can we see another? There's something weird going on at the bottom of the screen. Not so sure what that is. Maybe it's something to do with reshade itself. Like we don't have a lot of waves. Oh, we have one here. And we can see, with reshade, we can see the normals. So this is a great system also. We are kind of at a calm time. Like the weather is really, like this is pretty calm for now. The wind and the water agitation is pretty low. So we see some of those waves getting formed. And it goes all the way. Let's follow them. And it blends with the rest. Yeah, they're not very strong waves, but this is also a very, very good effect. Very, very interesting. So this is vastly superior to most games because traditional water is mostly cosmetic, pre-authored flow maps and animated normals. Crimson Desert's system is live and responsive. Move a rock, put a tree to block a river, or change the terrain and the water automatically reacts correctly. No hand editing flow fields required. So we can see that the devs work tirelessly to get things right. And when a senior dev from Rockstar who worked on the rivers of Red Dead Redemption 2 is saying, guys, you did better than Rockstar. Well, this is like the highest praise that you can get in this industry. So amazing job, guys, at Perlibis. We are very proud of you and we are very happy and grateful to be able to play such an immersive game. If you're learning from these videos but are still struggling to put everything together into a full environment, that's exactly why I built my full course. You'll build the entire scene step by step in real time. Understanding composition, scale, materials, and lighting, so you can apply the same process to your own worlds. These environments were created by students using the same workflow you will learn here. It's designed for artists who already know the basics and want to create a professional portfolio work, not just isolated studies. This isn't about learning tools, it's about learning how professionals build environments. If that's where you're trying to get to, you can check the link in the description. And a quick thank you to the members supporting the channel. Your support helps make these videos possible.